Ben Pearson, the Roaster Tracker, a well-known YouTuber, posted a comment recently on Twitter that said something to the effect of, "Nothing that Elon Musk has built will ever see the surface of Mars." Now, aside from the fact that he doesn't actually build most of the stuff in his companies, let's go with his companies, okay? And there are two companies in particular to talk about. There's Tesla and Spacex. There's other companies, of course, but let's go with those two for the moment, okay? So, first of all, I can pretty much guarantee you that there are Tesla vehicles that have seen Mars when it's low on the horizon with their self-driving. It's just going to be a little tiny dot. But Mars is bright enough where it should show up, and I could probably figure out the right time of the day and angle to make it show up, but I'm not going to. I'm quite certain that it is possible, however. But I'm pretty sure that's not what he meant. Let's take the Falcon Heavy launch, initial launch that launched Starman. Starman had a whole bunch of engineering cameras that were pointed everywhere. I would be willing to bet that if I knew exactly where to look, that one of those cameras happened to spot Mars. But there again, that's probably not what he meant either. Let's keep going. Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster went around Mars. The closest approach was a few million miles away. That's probably not close enough to satisfy it, especially since it was kind of an incidental type thing. It happened to pass by fairly close, almost as a coincidence. It was launched to be able to do such a thing, but the amount of fuel that was used was more or less random as how much it happened to run. They run until they couldn't run the engines any further. So it passed by 3.5 years. That's not really a deliberate stretch by any means. Let's keep looking though. SpaceX has actually 2 missions that are going to launch to Mars. Kind of. The first one is Psyche, which is set to be launched at the end of this year, I believe, on a Falcon Heavy. That mission is going to launch to the asteroid of the same name, Psyche, which is a largely metal asteroid in the asteroid belt. It is quite possibly the single most valuable non-planetary object in the solar system. It's basically made out of pure metal. You could probably make a fortune if you were to mine this asteroid. It's going to fly by the planet Mars on its way to this asteroid as a means of saving a little bit of propulsion. So the mission that SpaceX launched will go there, and there may be some small hardware that travels with it, you know, maybe some bolts or something that comes along. Probably not. Actually, now that I think about it, that's pretty much bogus. They're going to push off the spacecraft and nothing will touch. But, you know, it'll have been in direct contact with something that'll have flown by Mars. As is common, the procedure for going to Mars is that anything that is not the spacecraft is supposed to be guaranteed that it's not going to hit within 50 years. Psyche will accomplish that by using active propulsion to maneuver it into a carefully controlled window. Because the Falcon Heavy will not be operational that long, they're going to have it pass by fairly close, but not that close. It'll probably be a little bit closer, though, than the previous upper stage of a Falcon engine that was launched towards Mars, being Starman. There's another mission that's in even more value, and that is the Europa Clipper. Europa Clipper was going to be launched by an SLS rocket directly to Jupiter and eventually the moon Europa. In order to save a little bit of fuel, they did a flyby of Earth to allow it to have enough momentum to make it all the way out to Jupiter. But in order for this flyby of Earth to be effective, you have to do a deep space maneuver. And since Europa Clipper was not built for that, they would have had to take a solid rocket that they go fire off or something like that. But you don't really want to do that. And so some very clever engineers found out that you could do a flyby of Mars as a substitute for having this rocket motor that will bring it by to Earth to be able to have an effective flyout to Jupiter. So it will work perfectly fine, but it's also going to fly by Mars. The same kind of thing as Psyche, though. And both of them, the upper stage will be completely inactive by the time it gets anywhere close to there. But it's still kind of a curiosity. But what about something that is either going to orbit Mars or to land on the surface of Mars? Well, quite frankly, there isn't any missions that are on the plan. The only missions that have any plans is one called Escapade that was going to be a hitchhiker with the Psyche mission. Or you have the Rosalind Franklin rover, I believe is what it's called, which is the ExoMars rover that ESA was going to launch this year, but that has been delayed because of the Russia-Ukraine war. That one will not be launched by Spacex because it's an ESA launch. And then we don't really have any missions that are publicly announced to going to Mars. The next real thing is figuring out some kind of a way to get the samples that the Perseverance rover is collecting back to Earth. And there's a really good chance that that's going to be launched on probably a Falcon Heavy rocket. It depends on how soon they do it. Who knows? Maybe that'll be a Starship mission. It's entirely possible. But if it's a Starship mission, it's not going to be landed by Starship. I'm pretty sure about that, but who knows? That one will probably happen in 2029 is my guess. Possibly 27, and it's still early enough in the development phase where anything could happen. Even though, if one of those missions is sent, SpaceX won't have any components there that will make it to the Red Planet. The only missions that have been talked about that would actually qualify would be the Red Dragon proposal to land something on the surface of Mars, which is entirely plausible, or the Starship mission, which will land large amounts of cargo and eventually humans on Mars. I'm still very much of the opinion that Starship is going to happen. It's been delayed, but it probably will make it to the surface of Mars eventually. And that will be the moment that that happens. It's hard to say when that's going to be, but suffice it to say, SpaceX has a pretty long history going towards Mars. Thank you guys much for joining me. Let me know whatever questions or comments you guys have. Until next time, keep on tracking. Take care, guys.